Hey folks, this is Kalani. The new year has only just and so begun, but the Dragonflight content train just doesn't stop. The release date for patch 10.2.5 was just announced, and it's coming our way in less than 2 weeks. The patch includes a lot of new content and potential evergreen systems, as well as story content that will lay the groundwork for the next WoW expansion, so we'll have plenty to keep us busy as we wait for 10.2.6 and the other future patches coming our way this year. We also have some expensive new items you can add to your collection if you have enough gold, and they may be hiding a hint that could point us towards the release date of the next WoW expansion. There have also been some nerfs to one of the harder bosses in the Amirdrassil raid. There's a lot to talk about, so let's break it all down. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Let's start with the release date. Patch 10.2.5 should hit live servers on January 16th, so about a week later than what a lot of folks were speculating, but still within that early January timeframe that made the most sense. As a quick little note, if you were looking at the Outland Cup event on the calendar thinking the patch had to release before that because it was included in the major patch notes, you wouldn't have been entirely wrong. Before the announcement, the Outland Cup was supposed to start on the 11th, but it's now been moved back to the 18th, so the patch will go live before the Outland Cup event starts, and I guess this tells us that these events are definitely not set in stone. The dev team can, and apparently will, move them around. We'll have to remember that when we start our guesstimations for the other future patches. With a January 16th release date, that puts the patch at just over a week away, so we don't have much longer to wait for our next WoW content injection. So we now know when this patch is going live, but I've seen a lot of folks who don't actually know what this patch is going to include, so let's quickly recap the new content coming our way. One of the major new features in 10.2.5 is the Azerothian Archives. This seems like almost a replacement for archaeology, where we'll work through dig sites, find clues and secrets, piece them together, and maybe find something interesting about the general area that we're digging in. There is also a group event to take part in with weekly rewards, so you can bet everyone will be taking part in that as often as they can. The most exciting thing about this new feature to me is that it has a lot of potential. We will probably be focusing on the Dragon Isles to start with, but we could see dig sites pop up across all of Azeroth eventually, giving the dev team a new way to add rewards into the old world and hide some fun little lore scraps and rewards wherever they want. It could become the new archaeology moving forward, but with new and interesting gameplay options and elements instead of the pesky traffic lights minigame. The other major new feature for 10.2.5 is the follower dungeon system. We'll have a video covering this in detail, as well as some interesting niche case uses, but the general idea is quite straightforward. You can queue into follower dungeons with whatever group composition you have, and the game will fill in the gaps with AI NPCs, so if you have a group of friends but no one wants to tank, as long as you have one spot free, so you're queuing up with 4 people instead of 5, you can then queue up for a follower dungeon and get an AI tank to lead you through. The same goes for healers. If you don't have a healer, an AI NPC can fill in that gap. This will only be available for normal dungeons to start with, so the scope is quite limited, but this system has a lot of potential for the future. We also have the reclaiming of Gilneas to work through. This hasn't been tested or previewed at all on the PTR, so that's a big chunk of secret story content coming our way, and we'll figure out what's going to happen with the Kingdom of Gilneas moving forward. We're also going to see new story quests that wrap up some loose ends in Dragonflight, and we might start leading up to the new story in the War Within expansion, so that's going to be very exciting indeed. We have a couple of new customization options coming through, including new hair colours for the trolls, there's a new skin colour for the Draenei, as well as some new Warlock Demon customization options for the Demonic Tyrants and Dark Glare Demon summons. And then this patch also finally opens up the dragon riding system to allow us to dragon ride pretty much anywhere in WoW. As long as you can use a flying mount there already, 10.2.5 will now allow you to also use a dragon riding mount. So you can zoom through any of those old zones to your heart's content, and it kinda solidifies dragon riding into the game as a major core feature instead of just an expansion feature. We know it will be a big part of the War Within expansion, and I think as we move forward into the War Within and Dragonflight becomes the default leveling experience for 10 to 60, dragon riding will help carry that new player experience as well, making the game much more enjoyable and engaging as you level up for the first time. So we are one step closer to the full dynamic flight system. The only big step left really is for more mounts to be enabled for dragon riding or dynamic flight. For now we're still limited to which mounts we can use, but now we're totally free to dragon ride wherever we want. So there is a lot coming with this patch, both in terms of new content to explore, but it's also laying a lot of groundwork for future patches and the launch of the next expansion. Now moving on, there are some interesting new items that popped up recently that might pique your curiosity, but I will warn you, you are going to need a boatload of gold if you want to pick up any of these items. The gold resonating crystal lets you summon the golden regal scarab, which is a bright golden scarab mount, and it looks quite fancy indeed, and it also kind of explains the 1.2 million gold price tag. If you need yet another mount that screams I have too much gold, this is the perfect item for you. The Whispering Temple Blades arsenal gives you two new high-res versions of the Quel'Serra model. The Whispering Temple Blade does not have any glow baseline, while the Gleaming Whispering Temple Blade has a yellow-white glow. You get both versions if you buy the 200,000 gold arsenal from the vendor, which actually isn't too bad. Then there are a lot of golden scarab themed weapons and shields, which also look very cool. I love the gun and the polearm especially. I will definitely be picking those up on my hunter and playing around with all the different transmogs I can find to go with it. There's a Witch Doctor themed shield with troll emblems and skulls, as well as the same kind of thing as a back piece transmog option. And then the last two items are new head transmog options. The Wrathful Crusader helm has a giant blade that is very reminiscent of the Helm of Wrath, and then the Regal Griffin Rider's headgear is much simpler with bones and feather details. If you are interested in any of these goodies, you'll need to swing by the Black Market Auction House in Valdrakken. It's actually kind of underneath the city. You want to head towards the Little Scales Daycare and drop down. The entrance to the Black Market Auction House is right there. The vendor you're looking for is Miss Zulan. Just tell them you're looking for something expensive. So if you have a lot of gold, there are some new time-limited items that you can pick up, but the time limit here is also quite interesting. The vendor very specifically says these items will only be available through August, and after that they will move into the Black Market Auction House and only become available quite rarely. What's interesting about this to me is that the last time we saw this kind of thing, a big gold sync item that becomes unavailable at a specific date, was the Brutosaur back in Battle for Azeroth. That one was definitely a special case mount with it being a mobile auction house and all that jazz, but the Brutosaur was only available until the pre-patch for Shadowlands. With these new gold sync items only being available until the end of August, that could point to the pre-patch for the War Within being at the end of August, which definitely fits in with the roadmap the dev team released recently. If the pre-patch drops at the end of August, that will also put the release date of the War Within sometime in September most likely, assuming the pre-patch event lasts for about 4 weeks, which would put the release time at the very end of summer. Now alternatively, these items could be available until the launch of the War Within instead of just the pre-patch, which could lead us to an end of August release date for the expansion. Now these are just rough guesstimations based on past events, but I think this time limit is tied to the expansion release in one way or another. But what do you think? Will the War Within launch at the end of August, or do you think it will be more likely in September to give the dev team some more time to cook? Let me know your predictions in the comment section below. And then to round out this week's video, we have some quick nerfs to the last boss of the current raid, Farak in Amirdrassil. Most of these changes seem to be focused on making the encounter easier for smaller group sizes, but the first change there should make the fight easier for pretty much everyone. A flame will target fewer players, which means less damage going out and fewer dispels for your healers to worry about, so that's going to make pretty much every difficulty easier for every group size. But then Screaming Souls and Spirits of the Kaldorei had their health reduced for smaller group sizes, so less damage or healing required to get those adds dealt with, and then Blaze damage was reduced for smaller groups, and the Corrupt Absorb value was reduced for smaller group sizes as well. So Farak should be easier to take down if you've only got a few friends or guildies that you run with, and it should be a bit easier for everyone thanks to that Aflame nerf. So whether you're just running LFR every week for a chance at the legendary axe, or pushing up through heroic mode and higher to claim other various rewards, Getting that final boss kill should be more attainable with these nerfs in place. The legendary axe was also just buffed yet again as well, so even more reason to try and get your hands on it before the next expansion rolls around. But that's all the updates we have for this week, so that's it for this video. When do you think the War Within expansion will launch? Do you think it's going to be tied to the new gold sync items expiring in August? Are you going to pick up any of these big ticket gold sync items? And what are you most excited about in patch 10.2.5 now that we have a release date? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.